Chair would entertain a motion for the consideration of claims.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I'd move to approve the consideration of claims to be paid in the amount of $204,209.93. Manual checks written in the amount of $878. Checks written for payroll liabilities from May 17, 2013 in the amount of $223,764.69 for a total of $428,852.62.
And I'll second that motion. Any questions on the bills?
Just one, Mr. Chair. Page 3 from the bottom, 16815. Just curious as to what vehicle that was that we purchased. Showed up out of budget.
Sanitation. Yeah, Mr. Chairman, that's sanitation. I believe what that is, and the reason why it shows up out of budget is that is a natural gas powered pickup.
Okay.
That Encana is helping us acquire, and it'll be placarded appropriately so. And as soon as we get it back in and get it, but there was a grant associated from Encana to get it, and we'll make sure and bring it over for a show for a council meeting or something like that, so you can all see it. But that would be what that is. It's been assigned to Greg Shaw.
Okay. That's all I have.
Okay, and I have no further questions. So all those in favor of the approval of claims say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, motion carried. Any other business for us, Mr. Weaver?
None.
All right, meeting adjourned.
Yes, Your Honor, I'd be happy to. Councilwoman Mary Ellen Christensen.
Present.
Councilman John Lars Baker.
Here.
Councilman Eric Kaiser.
Here.
Councilman Rich Guard.
Here.
Councilman Jonathan Fabian.
Here.
Councilman Todd Smith.
Here.
Mayor Ron Warpness.
And I am present. I declare that we have a quorum this evening. Chair would entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
Your Honor, I move that we approve the agenda.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Communication from the floor, citizens' comments. Anyone in the audience wishing to address the council regarding an item that is already on the agenda will be given an opportunity to speak later on. I would ask those individuals who wish to address the council at this time to approach the podium and identify yourself for the record. Mr. Scheidemannel, Mr. Beers.
Mayor, Council,
I'm Robert Scheidemantel with Wyoming Department of Transportation here in Riverton. I want to thank you for the time and the opportunity to inform you and the public of some projects that we have here in Riverton and around Riverton. Cody is passing out a pamphlet for us, and basically to inform you of some of the changes that's gone on in our transportation program. Right now we have in July, our July letting, Riverview Road, as I'm sure Bill Urbakite and some of you are aware, we're getting ready to rebuild Riverview Road just south of Hill Street there. And one of the changes that we've had is our South Federal and Monroe project has been moved from a July letting to a September letting. So just to let you know about that. One of the other projects coming up that we have is Riverton South. That is just starting at the South Bridge of Riverton on out past Beaver Creek Housing. We are going to widen that to a 5-lane all the way through there, plus the bridge will be widened to a 5-lane. And then in our 2016, which was originally set for a 2014 letting, North Federal will be coming up in 2016. And I just want to let you all know that about these changes, since we have had a lot of questions on some of our changes in our plan.
Okay.
So, if there are any questions, I can answer them. Okay, thank you.
I'm disappointed to see us move the North Federal back to 2016, but I
Yeah.
guess it has to be.
You know, our plan is, it's always changing sometimes, you know, due to project design, budget costs, different things.
Yes.
So, okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Robert.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
just one quick comment. I just can't say enough about what a pleasure it is to work with Robert and with Keith Compton and Shelby Carlson out of the Basin office, out of the District 5 offices up there. What a professional group of people that the YDOT team is, and how great they are to work with on putting all these projects together. It's really exciting to be able to do something of this magnitude, but it's even more rewarding when you have such professional people to work with.
I agree. I spent a little bit of time arguing with Robert when we were building Main Street and whatnot, so he's earned his way up the ranks and he's done a good job, so thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to address the council at this time? Okay. The chair would entertain a motion regarding the consent agenda. Before we do that, let's have the city clerk please read the consent agenda by titles only.
Thank you, Your Honor. Approval of the minutes, May 21st, 2013, regular council meeting. Approval of the minutes, May 23rd, 2013, council work session. Approval of the minutes, June 3rd, 2013, finance committee meeting. Approval of finance committee recommendations for June 3rd, 2013. City clerk's office also received a catering permit application from Miss Jenny's Roost, who's a Pavilion retail liquor license holder, June 6, 2013, for a graduation dinner at the Armory from 5 to 9. Catering permit from Time Out Bar for June 22nd, 2013, for a wedding at the Armory from 3 p.m. to 12 a.m. Lapeer for June 22nd, 2013, wedding reception at 1094 Gasser Road, 4 p.m. to 12 a.m. Bar 10, June 12th, 2013, WHAM Convention and Welcoming Reception at Reach Foundation from 5:30 to 8:30 p.m.
Your Honor,
Yes.
it's the recommendation of the Finance Committee for the approval of claims to be paid in the amount of $223,995.70. Manual checks in the amount of $878. Checks written for payroll liabilities for May 17, 2013 in the amount of $223,764.69 for a total of $448,638.39.
The chair would entertain a motion regarding the consent agenda.
Your Honor, I move that we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. At this time, we'll have a public hearing, a consideration of transfer of retail liquor license from the China Panda to Walmart. City clerk's report, please.
Yes, Your Honor. If I can get to my spot. We received an application from, I apologize for the, we received two applications that are more or less contingent on each other. One was an application for a transfer of ownership for a retail liquor license for Walmart Stores Incorporated, and a new restaurant liquor license application for China Panda. I believe we put everything necessary in your packet that you would need for that information, as well as a description of the dispensing areas that would be involved. The applications have been filled out appropriately, and the fees have been paid.
Thank you. The chair would entertain a motion regarding the public hearing.
Here, I move to open public hearing.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. I now declare the public hearing is open. The hearing will be conducted in accordance with state statutes and other applicable laws. I would ask those individuals wishing to address the council to approach the podium and identify yourself for the record.
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, my name is Randy Reed. I'm with the law firm of Dre Dykman Reed and Healy in Cheyenne, and we represent, our law firm represents Walmart Stores Incorporated in this particular matter. Thank you for allowing us to spend a little time talking about Walmart's application with you this evening. As the clerk mentioned, Walmart is seeking to obtain approval of the transfer of the liquor license, which is currently owned by the China Panda restaurant. So this is really sort of part one in a two-part deal. And if the restaurant license isn't granted pursuant to the public hearing to come right after this one, then the deal is off. And likewise, if Walmart's application is not granted, then that's the other part of the deal. So each is contingent upon the other. For the record, I do just want to say that we've been advised by the city clerk that the application that was submitted by Walmart is complete, and that the notice of this public hearing was properly published in the newspaper, all as required by law. So with those sort of preliminary matters out of the way, you all probably know that Wyoming statute sets forth 5 guidelines or criteria to guide a governing body when it's considering an application for either the issuance or the transfer of a liquor license. I want to run through those with you, and I'm happy to answer any questions that might come to mind as I go through these. But by the way, those 5 criteria are set forth in Wyoming Statute 12-4-104. The first criteria or guideline is that the welfare of the people residing in the vicinity of the proposed license or permit premises will not be adversely affected by the issuance or approval of the transfer of the license. Here, we're talking about a location on the North Federal Boulevard area. It's a highly commercial area. There's a lot of traffic out there. It's not near a residential area. We're not in the middle of a residential area or near, other perhaps more sensitive areas in the town. So given its location on North Federal, it seems difficult to see how the transfer of the liquor license from China Panda further down on North Federal up the street a few blocks would adversely affect the welfare of the people in the city of Riverton. The second criteria is that the purpose of Title 12 of the Wyoming statutes will be carried out by the transfer of the license. Title 12 of the statutes governs the sale of alcoholic beverages in Wyoming, and it's really geared throughout the title. It's geared towards protecting the welfare of the citizens of the state and the communities. Walmart in this situation will be regulated in the same manner with the same level of scrutiny both by law enforcement and by the Wyoming Liquor Commission as any other liquor sellers in the town. Jeremiah Griffin, a representative of Walmart, whom I believe you all have met before, will talk a little bit more about this, but Walmart is a very responsible seller of liquor and other age-controlled items in its store. Walmart's security measures are extremely reliable. The third criteria is that the number, type, and location of existing licenses or permits meet the needs of the vicinity under consideration. Again, the vicinity under consideration is the North Federal Boulevard corridor, and I would note that there are other liquor stores in that area, one of which is the Safeway store. Safeway store is a huge grocery retailer. In fact, it has 1,600 stores in the United States and Canada and does $43 billion in sales, or at least it did in 2011. Another big retailer in the city of Riverton is Smith's. It also sells alcohol on the other side of town. It has 132 stores in the western United States, and it's owned by Kroger, which has a $90 billion annual sales figure. So Walmart is simply asking for a level playing field. It's asking for the right to compete with these other large grocery store chains in the city of Riverton. Walmart will not have a large liquor box. It'll be about approximately 1,500 square feet. It'll be located in the back of the store, and so it's not a big, bulk discount operation in the Walmart store. Walmart won't have any ability to engage in predatory pricing, for two reasons. Number one is because the law prohibits that, so they'd be violating the law if they did that. And the second is just the size of their operation doesn't allow them to receive any sort of bulk purchase discount or anything like that. The fourth criteria is that the residents of the city will be, the desires of the residents of the city will be met or satisfied by the transfer of the license. Again, we're talking about the transfer from China Panda to Walmart. Walmart conducted an informal survey at its store just to poll its customers to try to get an idea of what the customers had to say about it. And the survey cards that were completed by the customers showed an overwhelming support for the transfer of the license, an overwhelming support in favor of Walmart being allowed to sell liquor to these customers. The customers indicated that it's a convenience and a nice alternative, and we're very positive about it. The fifth and last criteria is, are there any other reasonable restrictions or standards which may be imposed by the licensing authority? Will they be carried out by the transfer of the license or permit? Currently, there are no restrictions on the China Panda retail license. Walmart is certainly open to reasonable restrictions such as signage within its store, perhaps hours of operation, other limitations that this governing body may feel are necessary here, but again, they're happy to hear those suggestions if you have some. Finally, I want to mention one thing that I read in the media from in the last couple weeks, and there were comments in the media about the impact on competition within the community. You probably noted that none of the 5 statutory criteria that I just talked about say anything about competition. They don't say anything about protecting other liquor establishments from the impacts of competition, and there's good reason for that. The Wyoming Supreme Court has said unequivocally that competitors do not have standing, competing liquor dealers do not have standing to contest the issuance of a retail liquor license. So other license holders, whether they're big or small, are not entitled to freedom from competition. To base a denial of the transfer on the impact that competition would have would be an unlawful restraint on competition. And the Wyoming cases where the Supreme Court talks about this are called Bayou Liquors versus the City of Casper and Walker versus the Albany County Commissioners. Therefore, we respectfully request that the governing body approve the transfer application, and I'd be happy to address any questions you may have.
Okay. Does any of the council have any questions? Mr. Reed.
No, Your Honor.
Yes, Councilman Guard.
I don't have any.
We don't have any, okay.
Your Honor, I do.
Christensen.
Mr. Reed?
Yes.
Can you tell me what benefit a high-volume liquor store would bring to Riverton, Wyoming?
Yeah, well, first of all, based upon, and Mr. Griffin from Walmart is here too, and you know, that's probably a fairer question for him, but I'm happy to give it a shot. First of all, Walmart is not going to have, I'm not sure what your definition of high-volume liquor establishment is, but again, their store is a, you know, is a small 1,500 square foot store. They won't have the ability to, you know, have a whole lot of volume because they have no ability. They have no ability to store the kind of high volume that you may have in mind.
I was just thinking compared to maybe China Panda's volume versus Walmart volume.
Yeah, you know, there's, you know, I think there's no question that their volume will probably be higher than China Panda's. I mean, China Panda was not, as I understand it, not running a packaged liquor store. And so the volume will probably increase, but in terms of having it be a, you know, a liquor supermarket, that's not, you know, that's not the plan.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Your Honor?
Yes, Councilman Fabian.
I actually had the opportunity to talk to some of the distributors in the area, and there is a definite concern based on other stores in the state that there would be requests made of those distributors that fall outside of the Wyoming guidelines in terms of wanting to have shelves faced and things of that nature outside of the time when purchases and or orders are being made, which are the only times that that's permitted by Wyoming statute, is my understanding. So I guess I would just simply like clarification if Walmart is engaging in trying to get distributors to exercise outside of the law in other areas.
Yeah, you know, I have absolutely no knowledge of that. You know, I think there's too much at risk for Walmart to, you know, to push the envelope like that. I would probably defer the remainder of the answer to Mr. Griffin, not to, you know, try to skate out on that one, but, you know, I just have that general answer.
I'd be interested to hear his answer.
Okay.
Okay. I think that's all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor and Council, Jeremiah Griffin with Walmart Stores Incorporated. Brandon's handing out a pamphlet that I'm not going to bore you by reading it to you. But Council Fabian, I would like to address your question. So, very well aware of the circumstance that you're talking about. That is something that we learned very early on in our endeavor into operating liquor stores in the state of Wyoming. It's not a typical piece of a statute from where I'm used to exercising liquor establishments in Montana, Colorado, Nebraska. So early on, absolutely, we did learn that. It's not a practice that we engage in, and nor is it a practice that I would advocate.
Thank you.
And then, Councilwoman Christensen, I'd like to further address your question. Sure. Absolutely, China Panda's got 2 refrigeration doors. It's definitely going to increase the volume in comparison to China Panda. For those that were at the May 21st meeting, I apologize if some of this is repetitive, but I addressed the council in May 21st in an informal manner, and my plan here is convenience for the customer. It's choice for the customer. It's offering a level playing field with the other grocers in town. I'm not trying to run a high volume liquor store. It's 1,500 square feet. I've been in Woodwards. I've been in Rocky Mountain. I can't carry nearly the assortment in 1,500 square feet when you start putting in registers and coolers. It just doesn't amount to much. Carrying the very simple basics, things that the responsible citizens of Riverton can pick up while they do their grocery shopping, very much like they do at Smith's, very much like they do at Safeway. So my intention, not to run a high volume liquor store. Will the volume increase compared to China Panda? I think anybody that you sell the license to, it'll increase compared to their 2 doors. So that said, I'd like to talk mainly about our strategy aside from the legal aspect. Randy presented the legal aspect and assured you that we have fulfilled all of that. The item that I want to talk about first is it's clearly a concern in Riverton, Wyoming, Fremont County, alcoholism. Alcoholism is a disease that's devastating to people, and I've got no argument against that. What I am here to say is that alcoholism is not increased by who sells alcohol. They're going to get their alcohol wherever they want. What I'm here to do is to offer you an avenue for you in partnership with us. Your goal is to help curb alcoholism and prevent alcohol abuse in Riverton, Wyoming. And I can help that. I have a highly controlled environment. I don't have, my proposed plan is I will not have an exterior entrance. It's going to be very difficult in all sense of the word to get to my liquor store. It's exactly 110 yards from my front door to where the door to the liquor store would be. 110 yards that somebody would have to go to try and get alcohol and abuse their right to get alcohol. My training of our associates, our managers, and our supervisors, we're not only trained on how to check IDs, we also teach our associates how to evaluate a person's presence and whether or not they're even in a state of mind to be able to make that purchase. It's the same type of training we do for firearms. And if any reason at all that an associate doesn't feel comfortable making that sale, we are behind them 100% in denying that sale. We teach them how to make those observations. We teach them how to talk a situation down. We teach them how to deny a sale. That's all just Walmart training. In the state of Wyoming, we've also become a member in the last 3 years of the Wyoming State Liquor Association, and we require all of our associates that take part in the liquor stores to go through the Wyoming State Liquor Association TIPS training, and they're all certified annually there. We do our certifications internally annually based on their hire date. I am looking to help Riverton control the alcohol, control the access to alcohol, while still letting it be of access to the responsible citizens that want that convenience. There's plenty of responsible citizens in Riverton, and I'm looking to serve them. I'm not looking to serve the person that's made it through their first 12-pack and is looking to get more. Randy told you that we would entertain the thoughts of, restrictions. I will tell you that a self-imposed restriction already in the state of Wyoming, I don't have a liquor store that operates past 11 p.m. If that's too late and you feel that there's more restrictions on that, then I'd be willing to entertain that thought too. The majority of liquor stores in Riverton right now stay open well past midnight. I'm not going to be one of those because that's not the type of consumer that I'm looking to serve. I'm looking to serve the person that wants convenience of one-stop shopping and the convenience of having that choice to get their liquor where they get their groceries. Want to talk a little bit about just dive into the safety and security of what we do. I've talked about the training that we go through with our people. We will have 9 cameras in the 1,500 square foot box. There's no blind spots in the box. I was in Woodward's earlier in the month, and unless they've got pinhole cameras somewhere. I counted 6, and their building's approximately 2 to 3 times the size of what mine will be. I'm going to have 9 cameras in a 1,500 square foot box. I've got cameras in my parking lot. I've got cameras that lead from my front door all the way to where the liquor box will be. There will not be a way to get access to that liquor box without me being able to see who's doing it. Very high security with the cameras. It's fully enclosed. It's got a locking sliding glass door, floor to ceiling walls. Again, no exterior entrance. There's one way in and one way out. I'm not serving the drive-through person who it's very hard to tell if they're already intoxicated. I'm not serving the walk-in person that can find it in themselves to maintain composure while they buy more alcohol. They've got to make it from the front door 110 yards through hundreds of other customers in order to make their purchase. That's not the type of customer I'm looking for. In regards to compliance, some of you have alluded to it, but we've operated liquor stores in Wyoming, whether it be Sam's Club or Walmart, since 2003. And in that 10-year period, I've had 2 violations. In Riverton alone, there was 7 establishments last year that had violations. I've operated liquor stores in Wyoming with Walmart for 10 years, and I have 2 violations. And quite frankly, in each of those cases, if the violating party had followed our procedures and let the system do its job in keying in a birth date, they would have passed. So, I do want to reference that in the past 2 months, the city of Riverton has been conducting tobacco stings. We've had 3 stings in the last 2 months at our store, and we've passed every single one of them. I think that serves to show the council what high regard we take in selling age-restricted items. Smith's failed this last weekend. West Maverick failed. West Main Pit Stop failed. We haven't failed. We've passed all of our tobacco stings. I talked about annual training, and quite frankly, I don't want you to leave here thinking that we train on just an annual basis. We recognize that there are high times where alcohol purchases are more prevalent and they increase. Graduations, summertime weddings, holidays, Memorial Day we just passed, 4th of July, Labor Day, Christmas, New Year's. Our store managers sit down with every person that works in those liquor establishments prior to those holidays and reinforces everything that they've been trained on just to serve as a reminder as to what they're looking for. So from a responsible citizen perspective, I'm offering you a lot more than what China Panda ever could. Quite frankly, I'm offering you much more security than any other establishment in town can offer. You know, you look at the amount of police calls that South Maverick has had. You look at the amount of alcohol-related calls that just Woodward's have had in the last year, and you're not going to experience that with Walmart. The way I'm building it, the location of it, and the training and security that I offer, it's not going to be an issue. It's going to be an improvement to what you already have. So, again, I would ask for your consideration for the approval of this license. We'd like to have a level playing field in the city of Riverton. We'd like to help you in your efforts to curb alcohol abuse. We've begun conversations with Mr. Merle Yellow Kidney up at the Fremont County Crisis Center. These are all things that we are absolutely willing to pursue and to help Riverton in its overall quest to curb alcoholism. But to curb alcoholism, you can't deny the responsible citizens of Riverton and their desires to have convenience and choice as well. So, questions?
Is there any questions of Jeremiah? Very comprehensive. I think you've covered it all, Jeremiah.
Your Honor,
Yes.
I just thought
Councilman
I
Fabian.
wanted, are there future plans for expansion of the liquor box?
No. It, from an expense perspective, if you're familiar with the Casper West location, it was a brand new ground up building that enables a lot of different options for how a liquor store can be added into a building. Quite frankly, in a building, unless we were to totally relocate and build a brand new building, there is just no cost-effective way to do anything different. This is it.
Thank you.
How many Walmart stores are there in Wyoming?
10.
10.
10 and 2 Sam's Clubs.
Okay. And out of that 10, how many serve alcohol?
I sell in 3 Walmarts and 1 Sam's Club.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you.
Very good. Thank you.
Is there anyone else that would like to address the council regarding this issue?
Hi there, Jana Peterson. I have a question for the Walmart guys. How many times a day do the law officers go out to pick up shoplifters?
You need to address the council with your questions.
I would like to know even an average of how many times law officers have to go to Walmart for shoplifters.
I don't have any specific numbers as far as just shoplifters. In 2012. I don't have any specific numbers as far as shoplifters themselves, but there were a little over 380 calls for service at Walmart in last year from January 1st to December 31st.
Okay. A lot of times is shoplifting. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. I have been down at the Sam's Club. I have been in their box or cage, whatever they call it, because I buy lighters in there. There is one teller in the liquor cage. She will be going over getting me my little tray of lighters, and I have seen people come in to the liquor area, walk back out. I really don't think that, I know Sam's Club don't have as much security with shoplifting as I think they ought to. I don't know if the Walmart thinks that they will have less issues with shoplifting because the liquor's going to be cleared to the back of the store. It doesn't seem like they're really on top of people not stealing from them. I'm worried about underage people getting liquor out of there, not only those coming off the street, but possibly employee theft. That is one of my concerns. So.
Thank you. Jeremiah, could we see if anyone else has Mr. Woodward?
Bob Woodward. I've lived here for 66 years. I don't know if any of you guys are residents of Riverton. I don't recognize you, and welcome to our city. But we're trying to do business. I'm an independent. We're talking a level playing field. How did that work out in the grocery business? I had a grocery store here for 35 years. That put me out of business. I know that's not a reason not to, but that was one of their excuses. I can't come in and bribe the city council and say we're going to give money to the crisis center. Bribe might be a pretty strong word, but that's kind of what they've offered. They offer to do all these things. They talk a level playing field. I'm an independent. I'm not talking billions of dollars in sales. I'm talking thousands of dollars in sales. We've probably been one of the best citizens in the community, We do make several calls to the law enforcement, as they know. We don't have an alcohol problem down there where it's fight. We call ready reports in. We call all these reports that are being a good citizen. And I don't think that needs to be used against us. But, you know, they talk about the security. I've also operated the Subway stores down there at Walmart. A year and a half ago, I had a $1,000 deposit bag that was left in a shopping cart. One of their cameras caught two ladies going out the door with that bag a year and a half ago, and we have not got that. Same thing with the liquor. I mean, you might have cameras everywhere. They did not have cameras working on the exterior. There was none working in the parking lot at that time. So we can't see what vehicle they got into. They might have all these cameras, but they don't have the security they think they do. I think that as the council chambers that I've been to, you know, we keep talking about the problems with alcohol. I just did not realize that we needed another packaged liquor store in Riverton, which basically we're adding another liquor store because you're pulling one out of China Panda, you're adding another one to China Panda with the restaurant license. So basically you're adding another packaged liquor store. I didn't realize that we needed one. I thought we was meeting the needs of the people here in Riverton. I thought we was doing a fine job. All of our people are trained. They know how to act, how to responsibly check IDs, how to watch for intoxication. I don't think all their associates are going to be trained that way, that somebody steps in, they're in trouble over there. I know how it works in the grocery business. If you've got somebody if you got a line waiting, somebody steps in to help. You need to train all these people. Tip's trained. You know, we've offered, we're current with everybody, and we stay current. I think, I just don't see a reason that we do need another packaged liquor store. Any questions, I'd be glad to answer. Thank you.
I would just like to comment, Bob, that I think bribe is a little strong word to be using for the council.
It is a strong word, but they come in and offer that, don't they, Ron? Aren't they making offers to you to give them a liquor license?
That's not the way I interpret it at all. They're trying to be good citizens in our community, and our crisis center does need help. But I certainly don't see that as a bribe.
Maybe we could bid on it. I don't know. You know, I don't have the deep pockets that they do.
No, I understand.
But, you know, if I could make an offer, I would. But
yeah.
I'm going to take the same people. They're going to take right now, they go into Laramie, they go into Casper. They're some of the biggest liquor establishments in those towns. Mm-hmm. And you can look at the numbers that go in there, the cases of beer, of liquor, and they've made an impact. It's probably going to take close to half of my business. I still need to have the same people. I have to have 2 to 3 people there at all times in order to control who's coming in, who's going to be shoplifting, the kids are old enough, somebody's intoxicated. When I cut my business in half and I have the same amount of employees, it's hard to control. I mean, and it doesn't leave any profit. This is my livelihood. You know, I know it's not their livelihood, but it's Riverton, Wyoming. It's kind of the independent, you know, they're going by the wayside. I mean, we're talking Smith's and Safeway, and we're talking Walmart with billions and billions of dollars. But I think you need to look at all aspects. I think we've been good representatives of the community, and, you know, we want to continue to do that, and hopefully we'll be here, you know, a little longer than the grocery store. I lasted about 1.5 years after they opened the grocery store. You can only do it so long when you don't have deep pockets.
Okay. Thank you.
Your Honor.
Yes.
I have a question regarding the Alcohol Crisis
Bob?
Center. It would be any of the liquor dealers out in the audience. Has anybody ever approached you to help with the Alcohol Crisis Center or any other community program out there?
Can you speak into the microphone if you could, Bob? I think the question was addressed to you.
Nobody's ever approached us about contributing. I mean, tax-wise, we've contributed. The city helps them. You know, we help where we can, and call somebody to get rides down to the Alcohol Crisis Center. Nobody's approached us for money.
For assistance or for any
assistance
donation.
Sure. Thank you.
Could any of the other liquor dealers respond to that?
They have not approached us either.
Yeah, never approached us either for assistance. Is there anyone else in the audience that would like to address the council at this time in this open public meeting?
Thank you.
Council members, my name's Brandon McCarter. I'm not a resident of Riverton. I used to be 10 years ago, but I'm not anymore. I really enjoyed the town. I just wanted to remind people that the needs of the community, Riverton's a small community, have approximately 11,000 people in the community. Right now, there's 22 full retail liquor licenses in the community. So we really need to take our time and look at this and see if the needs of the community are being met by those existing retail liquor establishments, or if there is a need for another one. So my feeling is that the needs are being met by the existing ones. Thank you. Okay. Oh, and sorry, before I leave, if the Alcohol Crisis Center would like to approach us, we would be more than happy to help them.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to address the council at this time? Okay. Did you have something else, Jeremiah?
Yeah, Mayor and Council, I'd like to address some of the comments. So very specifically, 388 calls to Walmart last year. 126 of them had to do with shoplifting. Once every 3 days, I will tell you again, in my experience of operating liquor stores in Wyoming, we have yet to stop anybody even attempting to steal out of our liquor boxes. Again, it's one entrance in. That entrance has the register right there. You cannot get into the liquor box without that person seeing you, let alone get out. No blind spots. Again, it's such a highly secure environment that I've never encountered a shoplifting incident. If you start making the comparison to my total box, 205,000 square feet, another 200,000 square feet of parking lot. I got 90 cameras that cover that 400,000 square feet. There's going to be shoplifting. I don't think that shoplifting is isolated to Walmart. It was clearly, we discussed it in the May 21st meeting that is a concern in the entire community, the topic of shoplifting. And again, with regards to access to alcohol and shoplifting of alcohol, it's very much controlled in my environment. So there's the specifics as far as police calls. I'd like to talk a little bit about customers. That, you know, the comment was made that the customers are the livelihood of the business. And the same is true for Walmart. Walmart started out very small. And yes, we've competed through the years and we've grown, and yes, you can argue that we're a global company, but at the end of the day, it still boils down to customer desires, customer wants, customer needs, and quite frankly, the customers are asking for this. I'm not somebody from Riverton. I've got my store manager, Brandon Mitchell, here. He's lived here for 3.5 years. His wife's family is from here. His wife is a school teacher here. He's very much in tune with the community and very much dedicated to the community, and wouldn't be pursuing this if he thought it was bad for the community. It's not Walmart coming in from the outside and pursuing this. Very much a local desire here and the livelihood of our customers. Speaking of impact to other businesses, again, I've been in Wyoming now for 7 years. Back in Wyoming, I was born and raised here, but back in Wyoming for 7 years, and 0 liquor establishments have closed in Laramie. 0 liquor establishments have closed in Casper, Wyoming. It's competition, and that competition has not predicated closures. It's given the customers the desire, the choice, the convenience that they've asked us for. As far as the Fremont Crisis Center, you know, as we studied this, it was very clear that alcoholism was the major concern. It wasn't about what we heard from customers. It was not about Walmart having the liquor license. It was about alcoholism. And I apologize that we took the first step forward in approaching the Fremont Crisis Center, but we wanted to be that good community citizen. We wanted to see what we could do to help in that city effort to curb alcoholism while still maintaining a service to the responsible citizens of Riverton. It was a step forward that we took. It's not a step that we'll retreat from based on the decision of this. It is a clear desire of the city of Riverton to battle alcohol abuse and to establish rehabilitation programs, and whatever we can do to help that, then we're there. You know, in closing, I would just say the comment was made that people are the difference, and Councilwoman Christensen, you even said it on the Channel 13 interview that you did, that the people in the liquor establishments are what make the difference to access to liquor. And I truly, wholeheartedly, I can quote it here. I paraphrased it.
I don't remember.
You said these liquor stores, whether they are drive-in, walk-in, whatever, the people that are working at these places are the key component to monitor alcohol use. Absolutely, 100% agree with you, and that's the reason that I stand before you and I say that my training is second to none. My people are what make the difference in this control. We can talk about register software, we can talk about cameras, we can talk about locking glass doors, we can talk about buzzers on doors, mirrors, whatever you want to talk about, but it's the people that make the difference. And the training that I do from a Walmart perspective, and then in partnership with the Wyoming State Liquor Association through their TIPS training, it's second to none. And my people are what make the difference, and my people will continue to make the difference in Riverton, Wyoming. So, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, is there anyone else that would like to address before we close the public hearing?
Seeing none, Your Honor, I would make the motion to close the hearing.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to close the public hearing. Discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carries. The chair would entertain a motion regarding the transfer of the China Panda liquor license at this time.
Your Honor, I would make the motion to approve the transfer of ownership to Walmart.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Discussion?
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes, Councilman Christensen.
Few issues. The Chapter 12-4-104, and just to verify, or just to clarify, these are regarding number 3. All my issues I'm going to discuss are under there. And it's the number, type, and location of the existing licenses in the vicinity under consideration. Well, we brought it up. There are 22 presently in the city of Riverton. There are 4 within 0.7 per my car. I haven't measured it foot by foot, but with my car, 0.7 miles. And several of them closer than that. That's from Woodward's. There's another issue. In this year's budget, we've got taxpayer money of $112,000 being paid to the Alcohol Crisis Center. So we got a problem. So council goals. And if you'll look here, one of them is correcting the alcohol problem. I don't know if another liquor store in town is going to do that. It was on our goals last year. In the Riverton Ranger, since the beginning of the year, there's been 9 articles, and if anyone would like that list, regarding the detriment to this community alcohol has had. So we have a big problem. Not that long ago, at a city council meeting, it was quoted, and I'll paraphrase, "We don't need another opportunity in this town for people to drink." I think that's another opportunity. The people I've talked to, we're confusing them. We come up here year after year and bash alcohol, say how bad it is, say how many problems there are. And we did it once before. We doubled the size of the Maverick. On the same agenda as we turned down a reasonable offer to control some alcohol. We're doing it again. I mean, we're talking out of both sides of our mouth. And that's what the citizens hear. They're like, what's the city council doing? I mean, do they want to help with alcohol, or we're opening more liquor stores? I understand free enterprise and all that. That's, I get it. But under that number 3, I think there's plenty of types and numbers and locations to satisfy the citizens of Riverton, Wyoming. Plain and simple. One of the other things, DUIs, 2012, 169. A pretty significant number. I think they're getting better. The issue with stings. I don't know how to say this correctly, but I know we were bringing up Woodward's. I think what I like about some of the local, and it's kind of funny that not being originally from Wyoming, but from New York. I've never met this gentleman that was up there in the blue shirt. I just happen to know you're short of an employee in Gillette right now. You don't know, I know that, but it's that hometown feel. I know what some of his employees are doing. That's how small this state is. I think that driving windows, some of the hometown, I don't know how to say it, but some of Bob's, some of Danny's employees, they know these people by name. Personally, they know their children's names, they know their mother's names, they know their father's names. They watch out for them. They know that if Sam Elliott comes in, that his wife might be out in the car and maybe he doesn't need to buy anything today. Maybe he knows that Sam Elliott's kid's in the car and they won't sell. And I've seen it happen time and time again. They really watch out. They know these people. I don't know if that's any consideration, but I think that's a plus to our the small local places. Under number 4, the desires of the residents of the county, city, and town will not be met by, transferring this license. I know you said you had a petition. I haven't seen it. I don't know how many people are on that. The person-to-person survey I did, and I see a lot of people every day, and I ask everybody. I'm pretty annoying about this. Some of my residents and their families kind of shy away from me because they know what issue's coming up and I'm going to ask them. They all said no except one. And it's close to 100. I run a business and I'm a nurse and et cetera, so I don't have a lot of time to chit-chat, but only one said yes. And it's a varied population that I asked. I just think that's, I trust that. I know they're voters of Riverton. I think it matters. And then there's one final issue that really, really upsets me. It makes me sad, and I will address that. In an email we received on 5/21, the entire council received this. and this distressed me when I read it. The city has had meetings with the representatives from Walmart to discuss the retail liquor license transfer. We talked with them about our number one priority of public intoxication. We discussed with them giving support for increasing the malt beverage tax. They are also interested in contributing to the Fremont County Alcohol Crisis Center. They also discussed only selling alcohol till 11 p.m. The only other issue we talked about was running out the smaller businesses. It is a small argument since we already allow Safeway and Smith's, large businesses that are not local. It really makes me sad to read that. I know that happened. The transfer of this liquor license shouldn't go to the highest bidder. Who's going to contribute the most? I don't think that's a good citizen. I think that's going to the highest bidder. I think it's special interests of this council, and I think we're putting special interests above public safety, plain and simple. It's purely questionable. That's a nice word, questionable. I think the public safety and the betterment of Riverton is not for sale. I don't care who comes in. I don't care if it's Kroger or Walmart or whatever. It's not for sale to the highest bidder, plain and simple. And I know, maybe you call that a good citizen. In my book, that was done way ahead, and that's not a good thing. Not a good thing at all. And I think people need to pay attention to that. It's not a way to do good business. It's not hometown. And Riverton, Wyoming deserves better than that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary Ellen. I think that I will go ahead and comment on this at this time. I think it's important that the council know my position on this, and in as much as it was brought into the conversation through that email that I had sent out to the council to bring them up to speed on a meeting that we did have with Jeremiah and Brandon. I remember having a similar discussion when we were talking about catering permits and talking about taking the lid off of that, and that's what we ultimately did. And I spoke strongly against increasing the number of catering permits, feeling that we weren't doing anything to help our alcohol problem that we have in the community. The council felt differently than that, and we have pretty well taken the lid off of the catering permits. Whether or not it's increased our alcohol problem, I don't know. Whether or not this will, I don't know either. But on this issue, the calls that I've mainly received were from liquor dealers. Of course, they want to protect their own economic self-interest. I understand that. I personally rebel against the thought of using the power of the city to protect one legal business against another legal business. I think that's why it's been so hard for me to come to a decision on this issue. I've talked to Scott Badley with the city clerk, Sheridan. In 2011, Sheridan denied liquor transfer to Walmart. They felt that they had enough outlets in the near neighborhood. Historically, they've been opposed to big box food stores getting liquor licenses, and it's my understanding that they didn't have any food stores in Sheridan that have liquor licenses. That was what I was told by Scott. I talked to Jenny Rosenkrantz, city administrator in Cody. Cody recently denied a transfer to Walmart. Similarly, they felt that they had plenty of outlets in the neighborhood. They also don't have food stores, liquor in food stores, and they have one C-store, I think she said. Nancy Stevenson is the assistant to the mayor in Evanston. I talked to her, and Evanston denied transfer to Walmart about 2 years ago. Felt that they had enough outlets in the near neighborhood also. They do not have liquor stores and food stores. They have 2 C-stores, and that's all. I feel that part of the responsibility of the city, as I see it, is to protect and be concerned about the general welfare of its citizens. We do this through zoning and permitting all the time. And in my position here, I take that very seriously. I don't look at just one business. I look at how it affects the whole community, and give it my best judgment from that perspective. Sometimes I err, but that's the intent. Walmart's a good corporate citizen. They bring a lot of business to this area. They provide good jobs to many of our citizens and are very generous in their help to community activities. The increased business that they bring helps to generate a lot of taxes for our city and county government. This is very important to us all. One thing that does concern me is the lack of enforcement with theft by Walmart, and in our meeting we did talk about that. I have to wonder if that lax attitude will be displayed in the alcohol area. But every dealing that Mr. Weaver and I have had to this point with the Walmart representatives have just been superlative. They've been very professional, very upfront, easy to talk with, and whatnot. While this transfer will not make much of a difference to Walmart's corporate bottom line, it will have significant impact on many of our small local businesses, as has been discussed this evening. I feel that we really don't need more and cheaper alcohol in our community. We have 32 outlets for alcohol in Riverton right now, 22 full retail, 6 restaurant, and 4 limited club permits. In point of fact, we are one over the number we're limited to have by the state. Is that correct, Mr. Weaver? I think
Honor, it's actually 2.
Okay, that makes it even more difficult. If the transfer goes through, then China Panda will ask for a restaurant permit, giving us another outlet for alcohol to 33. If we deny this request, nothing will change. We will not have taken anything from China Panda. It has been suggested to me that the reason that I was supportive of this transfer was the fact that I am just seeking support from Walmart for the increase in beer tax that I've been pushing. The term bribe was even used, which I feel is a very cheap shot. I take great exception to that line of thinking. In a discussion with Walmart management that Mr. Weaver and I had, I did encourage them to consider being supportive of the beer tax increase, as it is greatly needed. But I was very careful that they understood that this transfer was not contingent upon that support. I would make and have made the same plea to our local liquor dealers. Please be responsible citizens and don't continue to just walk away from any responsibility that you may have for your sale of alcohol in our community. It is not the same as selling a loaf of bread. Abuse of alcohol is killing our people, and we must all be responsible with it. Raising the tax on beer to the national average of 28 cents a gallon from its current 2 cents a gallon, lowest in the nation, is the right thing to do, but it has nothing to do with this transfer. If I felt that this transfer would help with the alcohol abuse problem we have in this area, or would be in the best interest of our citizens, I would be for it in a heartbeat. Riverton has such a problem with alcohol, and that is something that we just cannot continue to ignore. It is our #1 council goal, and because of that, I have personally come to the position that at this time, I feel that it is not in the best interest of all the citizens of Riverton for us to grant this transfer request of China Panda liquor license to Walmart. And that was a hard decision for me to come to, but looking at the overall community, I just feel for me that personally that's where I have to come down. I understand the inconsistency in it, where we've got 2 large food stores now with liquor licenses. If it were within my power, I would be happy to jerk those licenses and everybody start on a level playing field from that point. But that obviously is not the question at hand, and so I guess with that as my opening salvo, I will open it to the other council for their comments.
Your Honor?
Yes, Councilman Fabian.
I find myself pretty deeply torn in this issue because I'm a small business owner myself, and I, on the one hand, can relate with the concerns of, the competition side of things, and yet on the other hand, I know in my line of work I don't have the ability to in any way regulate, you know, if another chiropractor wants to come open up shop right next door to me, I don't have the ability to tell them no or anything else. And so I can certainly sympathize with the idea of, I guess, you know, free enterprise and allowing, you know, legal businesses to operate. And then I also consider Evanston, and one of the big reasons why Evanston didn't approve the liquor license was that there was essentially a liquor store in the parking lot of the Walmart, or right in the immediate area there. And you know, as I think about it, and I take in my mind, I don't actually have raw measurements, but I think about a central point in Walmart's parking lot and draw a line from there to their proposed liquor box, and draw a line from there to, say, the Sundowner that already has a liquor license. And unless I'm really bad at estimating, I don't see that being a huge difference. So essentially Walmart already almost has a liquor store in their parking lot in Riverton as well. And then, you know, the third piece of the pie that has been echoed many times is, you know, alcoholism tears this community apart in so many ways. It aggravates the many problems we have, from crime, you know, be it shoplifting, drunk driving, domestic abuse. I'm sure the police department could give us a litany of you know, the number of incidents that involve alcohol in this town, and it's staggering. And while on the one hand I would agree that having who sells the alcohol doesn't have a huge effect on intox, I think that in the end I feel like our city is well served as it is. I do drink on occasion, and I've never found myself unable to conveniently get the alcohol that I choose to drink. So I guess with that said, I'm leaning against the proposal. Thank you.
Your Honor.
Yes, Councilman Smith.
I often find myself at odds with much of the council, and I guess tonight's no exception. I was on the opposite side of this issue with the catering permits a little over a year ago. And I guess, you know, looking at a lot of the options, I want to be really careful that, you know, we are looking at economic viability. One of our goals also is economic growth opportunities, and making sure we're treating all businesses the same. Our job as a council is not to do an economic impact study when new businesses come into town. I don't remember us when Taco Time came in, you know, discussing how that was going to impact Taco Bell. That's not really our job, to do those types of things and consider how it's going to affect somebody else as far as business opportunities. Our job is to promote growth and promote business. I made many of the arguments that Councilwoman Christensen made a year ago on the catering permits. You know, we talked about how they weren't the ones contributing to the problem. We also don't regulate, you know, well, a couple of our caterers do most of the catering, so maybe we ought to not issue them permits so that others have an equal chance. We don't do that kind of thing. We give everyone the same playing field. I think if we don't issue this transfer, then we ought to really consider next year, when the licenses are up for renewal, pulling Safeway and Smith so that our grocery stores are on the same level. I know the mayor said if I could, I would. I guess those who would vote against this, you know, would they be willing to pull those other two when those licenses come up next year for renewal, so that we are putting our grocery stores on the same level, if we're going to consider that? Otherwise, I would be in supportive of this, just because I think they followed all the rules. They've submitted their application. They're not doing anything illegally in providing a place to purchase alcohol. I don't know that that's going to, you know, not transferring the license is not going to solve the public intoxication problem in our community. It goes much deeper than who's selling the alcohol. And we are monitoring that. We've got a lot of laws that monitor that, as long as the establishments that are selling it are following the rules. it is our job to treat them all the same. And so I think we ought to treat Walmart the same and not treat them as some big corporation from outside that isn't hometown values. I lived many years with my grandfather hated Walmart with a passion. You couldn't mention Walmart when you were in my grandpa's house. Come to find out, he owned stock in Kmart. So I think we need to be very careful in treating all businesses the same, regardless if they're a large corporation, a small hometown business, and give them all the same opportunity to make a living and make a buck. Thank you.
Okay, is there anyone else?
Your, if no one else is.
Well, Your Honor, I guess there's to me, the question is kind of, it really hinges around the fact that at this moment, we have 2 more retail liquor licenses in the city of Riverton than the law allows. And that came about through annexation issues. And so as those businesses became annexed into the community, those liquor licenses came to the community, and they were sort of grandfathered in. But obviously the state statutes in Wyoming empowers communities to regulate alcohol sales in their community. If it wasn't the intent of the state of Wyoming to allow us to do that, they wouldn't have written the laws the way they are. And then they go on to give us a specific formula for determining the number of full retail liquor licenses that you can have. Now, we don't have a limit on the number of restaurant licenses. Okay, but we do have a limit on full retail liquor licenses. I'm not sure how that number was arrived at, to tell you the truth, but it is what the state law says. Okay, so when I think about that and look at the issue, is that clearly, I mean, I drove past the China Panda last night and they were closed at 9:30. Okay. They operate as a restaurant liquor establishment would. They're not a packaged goods store. I don't see guys hanging around the outside door of their business panhandling or waiting for somebody that they know to come and make a buy for them. Okay? So, in my mind, what we are doing, in fact, although it doesn't really change the number of retail liquor licenses, we are increasing the number of functional retail liquor licenses in the community by 1. And so I think if we had this same issue here not long ago when we had a bar in a motel with a full liquor license that was a real source of problem. Okay, and when that guy finally decided that maybe he would sell that, okay, where did we move that liquor license to? The South Federal Maverick. Now, what was my initial reaction? Is we ought to just absorb that liquor license. Okay, but in that case, it looked like we would be moving a liquor license from one establishment where we were having difficulty to one where there would be a greater level of control. And so that would be an improvement in the situation, you see. And so I might find myself in a different situation if Walmart had decided to purchase a liquor license from somebody that was the source of all of this trouble. Then you could argue, well, we're going to do a more responsible job. But I don't see that happening. Instead of that, I see we're going to open up a new liquor store with greater volume, intentionally, with much greater volume. So I guess I'm not excited about that.
Your Honor. Looks like I'm pretty much in line with the rest of the council. I think it's been, it's kind of been a decision that I certainly in my own head have gone back and forth on many times. It's more than a little perplexing to me that, especially in today's society, we have this notion, a very strong movement out there that government just needs to stay the heck out. And yet, when something like this happens, we have local businesses coming in and telling us to keep them out. You can't have it both ways. Either we're in or we're out. That's the way it is. You can't say it's good. What's good for the goose isn't good for the gander because it doesn't have anything to do with me. So I think that's a little hypocritical to look to us only when you need it. But darn it, everything else that we do, you stay the heck out. That was kind of the first thought that popped into my head. Then I took my daughter, who's going to be 2 in August, on a bike ride. Got a little carrier for her. Past an apartment complex that's near where I live. Won't get into all the broken promises from people who came in out of town and promised Riverton the moon and stars, and we got a trash dump. So across the street from those apartments, on any given day, there's probably at least a couple cases of bottles of liquor, used bottles of liquor, emptied bottled liquor, some liquor bottles filled with, you take your guess, it's not liquor, so then I see that and I think to myself, well, gee, we certainly have plenty of opportunity. And do I really want that opportunity that close to my home? I'm on a good day, if I'm not slicing the golf ball, I could probably hit Walmart with a driver from my house. So that certainly opens up more opportunity in that area to fill those fields that have not been built on with more liquor bottles. I guess the main thing that I'm coming down to is we have a problem, and the problem was here before Walmart. And so maybe this is a perfect opportunity for every liquor establishment to step up and say what it is that they're going to do to help that problem, instead of accusing the city of taking a bribe to somehow help the public intoxication problem. I'm very offended by that remark. I don't understand at all. That tonight's the first I'd heard of it. I was not at the May 21st meeting. I had no idea that that offer had been made. But to say that we're being bribed because an establishment that currently operates and pays salaries for local folks wants to make a difference or hope to make a difference in the funding for what is probably our biggest public blight, that's offensive to me. So I guess where I'm at is, if we don't approve this tonight, I think the local establishments, whether they're independent and they live in Riverton, or they're Safeway and Smith's, need to step back and ask themselves the question of what have you done to help, and what are you going to do to help the problem? Rather than coming up and speaking against a business that's trying to get one, what are you going to do to step up to the plate and help? That's our #1 goal up there. Will continue to be, I'm sure. But we've yet to get anyone of the local businesses or Smith's or Safeway to step up and say, we know that we sell this, we know that there's an issue, and we're going to help. And yes, the question may not have been asked to you, okay, but I'll ask it to you now. It's not appropriate in this setting as we speak for you to answer that. This is debate for the council, but it's something that you need to consider, because if we don't approve this tonight, then I think everyone needs to kind of take a step back and look at how it is that you're going to make it better, because by not approving, we're not making anything better. We're at the status quo. And the status quo, at least in this council's eyes, is unacceptable. Flat out unacceptable. That's all I have.
Thank you.
Your Honor.
Yes, Councilman Guard.
As it pertains to Walmart's ability to be considered a community member, I turned to page 9 in their handout, and I see that over the last 3 years they've donated $44,700 to some rather good causes in Riverton, Wyoming. I don't believe they're bribes. I believe they would have to be listed as necessary and good causes. Councilman Fabian points out, and I think this is really important. I once took a business to Lander and wanted to feel like I was part of Lander's community, and I invested a lot of money to do it, and I hoped I was included. And so I think Walmart is a major employer in our community. I think a lot of people find their livelihood at that location. I think whenever we start licensing things, and I think in the past, I can name a number of things, and I think this is where I always find myself. We license plumbers, and so we have 3 of them in town. We license electricians, and so we have a small number of electricians in town. We license HVC contractors, and so we have a small number of those in town. And so you have to use those people to get your work done. I think that's a slippery slope. We see it in our medicine, in our medical industry. And so what we really find is by protecting one industry over another industry, we cause the cost to the consumer to go up. Now, if I had my way, and everybody knows I've lived in Riverton all my life, not a transplant, I've lived here all my life, I would close all liquor stores. 85% of the police activity is either alcohol or drug related. Now, I think that's been proven to be a poor choice also. That by taking away people's rights, we don't help anything. All we do is we set up a bunch of speakeasies and we make another law for people to break. I think it's real important. I keep this little saying next to me because I lots of times lose focus on what we do here. Is it affordable? This costs the city nothing. Is it sustainable? It is sustainable. And is it my job? I really don't think it's my job to dictate which businesses are favored over others. I don't believe that the $44,700 donated by Walmart was donated as a bribe. I have no idea that that's the way that happened. I think they live in our community. A huge amount of square foot of building in our community. They're here. Now, we've had some letters back and forth. You know, I don't think anybody is making whiskey in Wyoming. I asked that question and I was told that there was one. Mr. Eberkite, did you correct me? Was there one whiskey producer in Wyoming?
Yes, sir.
And so all the money for making of the product, which we all know is the expensive part, is leaving our community anyway. We don't produce Coors Light in Fremont County. We'd like to. I would back that too. I don't drink. I'd love to have their facility in Riverton, Wyoming. But I'm not going to protect one business over another business. We have seen businesses come and we've seen businesses go. And personally, I would really like that if the only place you could buy cabinets was from my store. That would be a wonderful opportunity. Don't think that's the case. You can buy them almost anywhere. You can make the argument that the cabinet is not going to hurt somebody. And I do think that that is a liable question that all of us have to face. The consumption, it is not the store that sells the liquor. It is not the activity that people attend. It is not the business owner that sells that should be held responsible. In America, we're losing sight of responsibility. It's the individual. The individual that is intoxicated is the problem, not the store that sells the product. And it's really easy to get up in arms against Walmart, Kmart. I think we're sitting in an old Kmart building. I just think it's a really bad set of business when we start picking one over another. It's nice to see that we have finally touched a point where some of us are interested in stopping some alcohol consumption on the council, and we've had absolutely no restraint. I really like Councilman Baker's thought. I like Councilman Smith's thought. Let's strip those stores back. Let's take those liquor licenses back. In the pre-meeting, I got there just a little bit late, but I think we were told we didn't have that power to do that. Is that correct?
Once a year. During renewal.
At renewal.
Yep. It's the only time.
And you know, I'm of the opinion that that's a great idea. I just don't know where to stop it and who's to take. And with that said, I don't want to take anybody's livelihood. And I think we should be able to give everybody a shot at what they choose to do. That's America. That's what we came here for. That's what our forefathers. The liquor stores that were here in town when I was a boy are long gone, all replaced by newer, better, bigger liquor stores. And successful men running them, successful people in charge. And I think they've done everything that they can do to assist drunks in Riverton. There's not that industry's fault. It's an individual. And so I don't think anybody has to step up and pay any specific amount of money because they sell alcohol. And so I would have to rest my case on the simple fact that if it's good for one, it's good for all. And it needs to be that way on every level. We cannot say, unless we truly will have the spine sufficient, which I have not found the council to have, to pull a liquor license. And if we're willing to go backwards on that, I'll get in lockstep and go right with you. And I don't have any problems with that. But just to deny Walmart because they're the biggest guys in town, 60 years ago, they weren't the biggest guys in town. They were just another small store. And so with all that said, I think we've just beat this to death, but I don't think it has anything to do with alcohol for me. It has everything to do with protectionism. And Walmart has gone about it in the way the rule book said to do it. And if we have the spine sufficient to go back to 20 permits, I'm all for it. Let's go do it. But if we are not, we should give Walmart their same opportunity as everyone else. And I hope to do that for every business that comes to Riverton, give them the opportunity to start their business the way they want to start their business. And I think we should welcome them. And we should not have any roadblocks in the way. And this is not new doctrine on my part. I have asked for this on the building department, from every department, for government to get out of the way and let free enterprise thrive. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Is there any other comments anyone would like to make before we vote on this? Yes, Mary Ellen.
One more. Regarding the term level playing field was used several times tonight. The point I was trying to make, I don't care if it's Walmart or somebody bigger or China Panda. It's not, in my process here, I've learned that doesn't matter. That shouldn't matter. I get that. what does upset me is we didn't give them the same treatment. We haven't given the rest of the liquor dealers in town the same treatment as Walmart regarding funding of special interests. This email came out early in the day, so the city met with Walmart prior to ever doing that. That's my point. We haven't given the other liquor dealers the same chance to contribute. I mean, I don't know if I would come to the city when we badmouth them and say how bad they are. And there is a problem in Riverton. I don't know if I'd want to come up here and get browbeat. I did one time. So I ran for council to have my word, to get my say. And I just worry that we're talking about give everybody the same level playing field. But I don't know if threatening to take away other liquor licenses is the way to make everybody feel confident and want to be part of that solution. I don't think that's the way to do it. I think a level playing field's a good idea. So I think the council, in their special interests, need to sit down with the liquor dealers in town, Walmart, whoever has a liquor license, and offer them the same circumstances that we had with Walmart. That's all I'm saying. I don't care if it's a big guy, little guy, or intermediate. It doesn't matter to me. But we need to have the level playing field. I know at one time I had a campaign I offered it to the Fremont County Alcohol Crisis Center. I went to several liquor stores. They were more than happy to put change containers in their stores. They were more than willing. I proposed that to a staff member. They were going to take care of that. I asked 2 or 3 times. It was never done. I think they do want to help, but I think we do need to keep a level playing field and not use that threat of, well, let's pull these liquor licenses. If we're not going to give Walmart, let's pull Safeway and Smith's. I mean, that's, I don't know, just leaves a bad taste in my mouth. I'm a nurse. I'm not a big business person. I live in a little house that 1,500 square feet to me is big. I would love it if my house was 1,500 square feet, but it's not. I'm just the average guy out there, and I do want a level playing field for everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments?
You know, Your Honor.
Yes, Councilman Guard.
I can hardly keep up with the swing. Either we have too many liquor stores or we don't. And so when immediately to single out, oh, we don't want to shut down anybody else's liquor store, but let's surely keep this one shut down. I don't understand that. Either we have a liquor problem or we don't. Personally, I don't think we have a liquor sales problem. I think a person should be able to buy liquor if he chooses to buy liquor. We have an intoxication problem, which takes a lot of education, takes a lot of, one of the things that stops that better than anything is a job. We got to get jobs. We got the Job Corps coming. We got to look at social problems, not liquor sales. And yet, with the brakes slammed on, we're going to stop Walmart, but boy, don't take any of those precious liquor stores away from us now. And if we're too over, we're too over. And so, you know, we either go back and get the last 2, or we go get the 2 with the most violations. We do something to put ourselves into compliance. And like I said, I don't buy any of that product, but I certainly don't think I should limit other people's choices. And they should have the right. That's what we're here for. It is our job to protect those rights, and they should have the opportunity to do so. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Okay, let's go to the question. We have a motion and a second on the floor at this time.
Maybe we could do a roll call.
Yes. Would you read the motion back?
Yes, Your Honor. The motion by Councilman Todd Smith and seconded by Councilman Rich Guard was to approve the transfer of the retail liquor license from China Panda to Walmart.
Okay. Okay, can we have a roll call?
Absolutely, Your Honor. Councilman Todd Smith.
Yes.
Councilman Jonathan Fabian.
No.
Councilman Rich Guard.
Yes.
Councilman Eric Heiser.
Yes.
Councilwoman Mary Ellen Christensen.
No.
Councilman John Lars Baker.
No.
Mayor Ron Warbness.
Mayor votes no. Okay, so apparently the motion fails, and at this time I don't think that it will be necessary to have the next public hearing regarding the consideration of restaurant liquor license for the China Panda. And so,
Your Honor, just a point of order. Do you need a, Madam City Clerk, do you need a motion to remove that from the agenda since it was already approved?
I think we need to go ahead with the public hearing. And I think you still need to go ahead with the vote. That's my opinion. But there are several attorneys in the room that may have a different opinion.
do we need to go through with the, okay. At this time, we'll have a public hearing in consideration of restaurant liquor license application for China Pandas. City Clerk's report, please.
Yes, Your Honor. We received a new application for a restaurant liquor license for China Panda. The application was filled out appropriately and the $500 fee was paid.
Okay, thank you. Chair would entertain a motion for the public hearing.
Your Honor, I move to open public hearing.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign, motion carries. I now declare the public hearing open. The hearing will be conducted in accordance with state statutes and other applicable laws. I would ask those individuals wishing to address the council to approach the podium and identify yourself for the record. Is there anyone wishing to speak to this issue at this time?
Seeing none, Your Honor, I'd move to close public hearing.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to close the public hearing. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carries. Okay. The chair would entertain a motion regarding the consideration of the restaurant liquor license application for China Panda.
Your Honor, seeing as the retail liquor license was not transferred, this would be a violation of the liquor statute, so I would move to deny the application for a restaurant liquor license.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Is there discussion? All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carries. Okay, next agenda item. Agenda item 10 is the DCI project expenditure update. City Administrator's report.
Yes, Your Honor. Councilman Smith requested this be on the council agenda since he is the finance chair. We've ran into a couple of, I guess you'd say, asterisks in the finance committee of cost overruns on the DCI project, and so we're bringing that forward to the council to discuss those and see how we want to proceed with the additional item that we still need to pay for to complete that project. Pursuant to the November 1st, 2011 regular council meeting, the governing body approved of staff moving forward with a loan application and project development of a new facility for DCI located at the Riverton Airport. The amount of the loan to be submitted was $375,000. In May 2012, staff approached the governing body with DCI bid award change order. At this regular meeting of the council, staff was directed to pursue the project with Sainert Systems as a contractor for an amount of $360,371. We paid $233.47, including the retainage. It was also understood at the time that the city had already spent $29,959.50 in architect engineer fees, and the city would contribute in kind with site preparation, which would amount to approximately $30,000. The governing body voted to continue with the project and accept Standard System as the contractor. As of today's date, the city has spent a total of $461,432.25 on this project, including the contracted amount of $371,233, the architect and design fees $29,959, crane service and tower setup $8,600, tower and drawings $18,786, building access control $13,347, electrical service $4,675, concrete work $7,200, and miscellaneous items and mounting components such as racks, routers, network switches $6,789, and other miscellaneous items totaling $850. The only item left to do at the DCI building is install a security fence around the property, and I think we've estimated that as being $7,500. While it has not been determined by the governing body what funds were to be used for the cost overruns, expenditures continue to be paid out of the line item for the DCI project. And in your packet, we've included a detailed list of the charges that have been charged to that particular line item. So basically, we need some direction as to how you want to proceed. One of the options is to direct staff to finish the project, and we would have to amend our budget that we have, that we're getting ready to approve. That would obviously lower that amount of our contingency amount by that amount, but that would get it in the budget because it's not in the budget, our next budget right now. We could request DCI to pay for the fencing, or we can consider the project complete right now as it is. And so so really we're just looking for some direction to either complete it or not, and how to pay for it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Weaver. Is the contract complete the way that it is now?
Mr. Mayor, yes, it is.
Okay. So this security fence is just a nice add-on that we're willing to make available to DCI? Or?
Mr. Mayor, the security fence and the other side improvements were included in the initial bid, but when council directed us to negotiate with Sainer to bring the contract down within budgetary constraints, that was one of the things that we said, okay, take that out. We'll figure out how to do that with our own hands, with our own crews, with our own resources if we can. So it's not necessarily a nice add-on. It was part of the total original
But are we committed to it is what I'm trying to get at.
Mr. Mayor, to have a complete project for a secure government facility, a security fence would make it a complete project.
I understand that, Bill, but what I'm getting at is, did we tell DCI that we would do this and now we're backing out on it?
Mr. Mayor, I guess if you and the council's direction is to just forget the fence, I'd say, yeah, to a certain extent, we are backing out on a commitment that we made. I believe they thought that they were renting a building with a fence around it.
Your Honor.
Yes. Councilman Smith.
Could I ask a couple of questions on
Certainly.
the money so I can get that straight? Since I asked to have this on the budget or the agenda tonight, what is the total dollar amount currently that is over budget? Is it the difference between the 360 and the 461? Are we $100,000 over budget, or is it the 371?
Well, Your Honor, the loan amount was for $375,000. I think we actually budgeted in the budget document for $400,000, but the amount of money we had was $375,000. So that's the amount of money we had to spend towards the project.
Was 400?
375.
375. So if we're at 461, then the difference between 375 and 461, you know, that has not been a line item in the budget. It's still coming out of the DCI project. So I guess, you know, my question is, where did the difference between the 371 and the 461 come from? Did that come out of the general fund surplus, out of our 18% reserves? Or where did that extra money come from, since we as a council have not designated where that extra funding was coming from.
I guess I'm the guy that's supposed to answer that question. I'm in the hot seat, aren't I? In my opinion, and mine alone, it is coming out of the airport subsidy.
Coming out of
Over
what?
and above the airport subsidy.
So basically, we've basically added an extra $100,000 approximately
By the
to
end
the
of-
airport subsidy by the end of the fiscal year.
Yes. I
Not
believe
including
so.
the $7,500 fence if we were to put that in the next fiscal year.
Yes.
So I guess then my next question is, since that money wasn't designated as a budget line item and just became more subsidy for the airport, do we need to consider, since the next topic is capital funding for next year, do we need to consider cutting capital funding for the next fiscal year by that $100,000 to pay back money into the general fund that was expended that we didn't, it just became a subsidy to the airport for another $100,000 that we didn't account for?
Your Honor, may I answer that question?
Certainly.
I
would
believe
appreciate it
there-
if you would.
Again, being in the hot seat, I believe that there is already money appropriated in the next year's fiscal year budget. When Gloria and I were finalizing the numbers to go to the council, we failed to change the fleet or the reserve amount, general fund reserve amount of $174,000, which we had for vehicles. It really should have been like $156,000. So in my opinion, there's money in there already appropriated for something, if you would like to leave that in there. Otherwise, I believe there's money in next year's budget for that, if you choose to spend it towards the DCI project.
And by for that, you mean for the fence?
Yes.
Okay. But not for the 100,000.
Not for the 100,000.
That's the total amount over by my math is roughly 93.5. Adding the fence in. So we were 375 was the loan, 461 was the amount, so that's 86. 7,500 to that, 93.5 would bring you the total amount over. And I guess my question is, why would that not happen in this fiscal year as opposed to next fiscal year?
I'm sorry, Councilman Heiser, why would not happen?
Maybe I'm confused. Councilman Smith, I thought, was asking about next fiscal year's budget and whether there's money in there for that. Did I misunderstand that?
I'm sorry, go ahead, Councilman Smith.
Well, the 93.5, and you added the 7,500.
Yes.
Taking out the 7,500, we've already spent
the 86.
The 86.
Right.
But all that was designated as more airport subsidy for this last fiscal year. And I guess that's where I was trying to come up with the numbers, since we as a council didn't designate where is the overage coming from. We keep getting these overages running on this project. We need to get a handle on the numbers to know where they're coming from. So the 86 is covered in this year's fiscal budget. If we want to add the fence in, then we would be looking at the 7,500 for the next budget, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Your Honor?
Yes, Councilman Fabian.
One other question then. Was the airport subsidy that we wound up spending this year, did it exceed what was initially budgeted for the airport?
Yes.
By how much? Do you know?
Do you know, Gloria? I'm not sure. I'm
Okay.
really not sure right
And
now.
I don't know if it's really relevant, but I guess my thought is that if we overexpended, that's money that has in fact already left the general fund and gone to the airport that we don't expect to see return to the general fund. And in that respect, I think Todd's point is well taken, that perhaps in order to keep the general fund whole, we should look at next year's budget and find opportunity to replace the 100,000 that we overspent, or whatever it was.
So, Your Honor, so we didn't manufacture any dollars, did we? We didn't print any extra money.
Working on it.
No.
Okay, all right. So we have a line item in the budget that we overspent. Is there a corresponding line item in the budget that we underspent?
No.
So then we are taking that over expenditure out of cash reserve.
Yes.
That's the question. Okay, so then I understand Councilman Smith's idea is that we reduce some spending at another location in the next budget to restore that
Reserve.
reserve.
I see. Thank you.
Your Honor, except that there's a reason I'm not an accountant, so correct me when I'm wrong. But the way I understand it is when you close out one year and you open another one, it's a brand new ledger. So it's not about recouping the 86 or 93 or whatever from last year into the general fund for this year or for the next fiscal year, because as I understand it, we're leaving this fiscal year with some cash, very little cash as I understand it, and we'll meet as of July 1 when the new budget is adopted. We'll meet the standard that the council has set in line for 18.5% reserve in the general fund and all the enterprise funds.
Yes.
Okay, so my point would be, why are you looking to replace something that's in the budget has already corrected itself? Because it's a brand new sheet starting July 1, and the 18.5, it's not like we're at 17.3% because that 86 isn't there. The money's there, it's just, it's not going to carry over. We had to pay it because that got the project done. So I guess that's where I'm stuck, is saying July 1, we're a brand new ledger and all the funds are meeting the levels that we established as a council. So then why would we look to go back and add the 86 when everything, at least in my little brain, was made whole?
Your Honor, may I respond to that? Did you have a secret meeting with Urbicite before this
I
meeting?
did not. But I told you I am not an accountant. That was not my strong suit in college, I will tell you that.
Although the budget is our guidelines for spending, and yes, we do zero it out at the end of every fiscal year, our cash does not zero out.
Okay.
Our cash carries on and on and on. So it is a valid point of where are we going to come up with the excess that we have already spent. When Gloria and I come to the council for an airport subsidy at the beginning of every fiscal year, last year it was $275,000. We look at the operations of the airport, plus probably some cash match for grants or if something like that. $275,000 was the airport subsidy for this fiscal year. If you look at your budget next fiscal year, it jumps up to $365,000. So we look at what those operations are, including debt, and that's proposed as well. But as far as us knowing what that project was going to come in at 11 months later, we didn't.
Your Honor.
Yes, Councilman Garden.
The difference being is very simple. In real business, the savings took a hit of $100,000. We spent the money. It's not there. The savings, the reserve is down $100,000. In my opinion, it's down $108,000. And so it never gets back there. That was my problem when I understood this conversation. Mr. Urbicite's thought is a good one. What his thought is if we get enough renters at the airport and they all pay $38.5, eventually we eliminate the subsidy and we get enough money coming in that the airport is cash carry. Currently it is not carrying its cash. The mayor and I think maybe possibly a few of the rest of you, didn't think that it was a great idea to get into the public entities business of renting space. We chose to. If this was the mayor leasing out a building, the $100,000 would come out of his savings, not the citizens of Riverton. he would either lose the contract or I would lose the contract and put the $100,000 in so that my client was pleased and willing to stay, or I would be looking for a new leaser. And so, yes, the money is gone. It's $100,000 out of the reserves. One of the things that was pointed out to us was I was in hopes that we could take the 38.5 and put it back in the general fund. It's just going to stay in the airport subsidy. It can't be moved. And so it's just going to buy down whatever the airport costs us each year by 38.5. Still a great idea. I'm not negative on the idea. The idea was great. It's 38.5 that we aren't going to have to generate someplace else. But the savings, which I think a lot of us understand, there's a hole in the savings account of $100,000. And what Councilman Smith's statement is we ought to look at our capital expenditures to put that money back in that we thought we had already saved. And I think if we're going to stick with our thought process of maintaining those savings accounts, you know, the state of Wyoming never rains in Wyoming, so that we don't ever spend that rainy day account money. And so if you're under that theory, it doesn't much matter, this conversation. But if you really do think that we have stewardship back to that fund, then we ought to replace it. And that will impact someplace else in the budget when we don't do a water improvement. We don't do some type of improvement that has kept us on the cutting edge. I think Riverton is extremely progressive in what we do. Powell bought a $9 million swimming pool. We bought a $9,000 water tank. That is our job.
$9 million.
I don't think we're in charge of swimming pools. I could be wrong. That's a shot in our arm. And so I think Councilman Smith's comment is totally correct. It ought to be replaced. It isn't a punishment for anything. It just is, it's good business. Replace your savings. And so we ought to look at what we can do to pull back our spending. I think it's the same conversation we've been having with all the emails shot across the bow over where third-party spending's at. I think it's the exact same problem. Just as it gets out of hand, everybody that comes into this council chamber, their needs are important, and they have there's a good reason to fund those, but we just can't fund them all. And eventually the money's gone, and there's $100,000 gone as of last year out of that account.
Mr. Mayor, if I could.
Yes, Mr. Herbicate.
First, I just want to tell you
Briefly.
I just want to tell you all how much I just relish the fact that Courtney feels like she's the one in the hot seat in this discussion. You know, it practically makes the whole project worth it, you know, for me. But that aside, just a little side humor there. You know, I think I understand these numbers just as well as anybody in the room, and Courtney and Gloria obviously being the real serious number crunchers that are going on. I have to tell you right now, I'm looking at numbers and I'm confused too. And part of what's my confusion is that I'm trying to look at what our revenue versus expenditures at the airport, because I've got the budget here and I'm looking at what last year's revenue and expenditures are, and I'm not quite getting it all up to add up in my head. And part of the reason why that doesn't add up in my head is that we sold 3 parcels of land at Riverton Regional Airport Industrial Park that are airport property, and we had $179,000 of revenue that was not anticipated in last year's budget. Okay, so there's $179,000 that was unanticipated revenue that came into the airport fund last year that, correct, we are, you know, 100,000 roughly or whatever the exact number is on the DCI, but that should be an easy wash. We shouldn't have to sacrifice next year's capital project or anything else. That should be there. But when I add up the revenues, they don't add up. It's not coming in like what we had projected, and I'm not exactly sure why. And Courtney and Gloria and I have been promising each other we're going to get together and get to the bottom of this and figure it out. And so my suggestion to you is, as is typical, we normally have to do a budget amendment at the end of the fiscal year to clean up a few loose ends. And this discussion has been with merit, that you guys understand what's gone on and where we're at, but for Courtney's benefit, and mine. If you'll just give us a little bit of time, when we come back with that budget amendment, we will have a detailed explanation of how this is going to work and where the money's going to come from. And then you'll be able to act on it at that time with that budget amendment, which is typical because we have a budget amendment every year, because there's always our little adjustments that have to be made. And that'll give Courtney and Gloria and I, and particularly Courtney, a little bit more time so she doesn't have to be in the hot seat quite so much tonight.
Your Honor.
Councilman Guard.
That's a great explanation. I knew you'd have one. But the reality of it is if I sell this house that you all own, and then I decide to put the proceeds over here, I ought to get your input. And I'm going to buy another house. And that's what you've done. You've taken $179,000 worth of cash exchanges to try to justify your $100,000 overage. Now, you may be in the positive, but it may be that we don't agree with where you bought the next house, right?
Yeah,
and so,
I'm not trying to justify.
So for openness, for us to all understand, and I think even more so than where the money went or what we got or what we bought, I think it's a better discussion for us to understand that when it started out, we were going to spend $375, and now we've spent $461 plus another fence. That's the simple math of where we're at. No matter what we sold in the interim, no matter what we managed to get sold or brought in elsewhere, we've spent more money on the project than we thought we would spend. DCI wants a fence. They want a secure facility. I can understand that. We want them to have a secure facility. We want them to stay because no one else is going to pay us that much money for that building. So I would suggest that the fence get built. But what I would also suggest is that if we're the governing body, this is the same conversation I have over the engineering that was brought to us. When we just see one bid and we're told this is good for us, I want to see all of them. And I want to be able to have it to be clear and visible to everyone where the money's being spent. And I think we do a pretty good job of that. This is just one of those entities that we tried to get a lot done with a little bit of money. And just because we get money from another source and spend it on that doesn't make the whole go away. It surely doesn't put the money back in savings where we thought it was. Thank you, Your Honor.
Your Honor, may I have one final comment, and then I won't be bill number 2 tonight, because the seat's getting colder by the minute. I like your comment, Councilman Guard, because I don't have the right, nor do I have the privilege, as the finance person, along with Gloria for the city, to say that unanticipated revenues warrant unanticipated expenditures. Because I'm not going to say that you have $200,000 coming in excess sales tax revenue, so let's go out and buy a copy machine. That's not the justification. The justification is remaining transparent, and who's to say that $186,000 or $179,000 in sale of property shouldn't have gone back to the general fund? I mean, I'm not going to call that. I don't know. I think, to me, that's the council's call if that's what you want to do. But I want to make it very clear that at no time during the budget year, when we follow the budget guidelines and try to stay within those guidelines, do we make a call on where the revenues are coming from to pay for unanticipated expenditures.
In this whole discussion, one thing that's maybe I'm not smart enough to understand what's happening, but nowhere in the discussion is the loss of revenue from DCI's when they were renting space here. Does that add on to this, that loss of revenue as well? And is it figured in there?
No.
Okay, so that's another $11,000 that for 11 months, isn't that what you were suggesting?
Actually, Your Honor, we received $6,100, so it's been a loss of $6,100 because it was 12/2 for 1 year.
Okay. So, yeah, some of these projects just are gifts that keep on giving, it seems like.
Your Honor.
But I do feel that we, you know, if we've made the commitment to DCI that we're going to have a security fence for them, I think we need to be good on our word there. I would hate to, you don't have this much invested in it and then go cheap at that point in time. But I hate to get pushed into these things that way. That's what bothers me about it a lot. Yes, Councilman Fabian.
The one thing I would point out too that we need to bear in mind if we do want to try to heal up the general fund is that really our only options for these capital projects, it's my understanding anyway, that it would have to be within either the airport fund or the general fund for that money to end up in the general fund ultimately. Is that correct?
Yes.
Simply because we're subsidizing the airport fund, and like we can't cut a project in the water fund and have it magically appear in the general fund. And so as I look down the list of the general fund projects and the airport fund projects, to find $100,000 there is interesting.
Your Honor, this is a tough decision because nothing was happening at the airport 18 months ago. And since something happened, and you can point your finger wherever you want to, other property is sold. And we have some footage going, and Bill's right, that revenues are coming in. But Courtney's right too, that it needs to come to here for us to decide where we're going to spend the money, whether it's general fund money, whether it's, Bill might have earned it, but we may not give it to him. We may make him pay back money he's already used. And so I think it's really important for a number of reasons. I think the project, maybe got legs and cost us a little bit more, and I think that's something that the council ought to understand. We have another one of those this year. This isn't a new lesson. And next time we have a really good idea and some citizenry come in and want to put us on the altar, I think maybe we ought to, at least get turned towards the front and take the knife in the front so we can pull it out. And so I think this is a learning experience. I don't think there's anything criminal going on here. I think that if we didn't do anything up there and if we just stayed stuck in the mud, there would be no growth. And somehow we got to challenge growth. Somehow we got to get out there and say, let's go. And I would like to give those kudos to Mr. Urbicite. He is creative, extremely creative, and it's a good thing we have Courtney around to watch.
And I would,
amen to that.
I would just follow up Councilman Gard's point too, that it's one thing for us to look back and say, well, we're missing $6,100 from DCI not being in that space. I have very good information that says that money goes away anyway. So we can either continue to collect the rent, which we chose to do. DCI had long outgrown that space. They weren't going to stick around. So you can't very well take that and say, well, no, this is a compounding loss. You have to continue to take that loss until someone rents it, because DCI wasn't going to stick around. So you just can't make that argument and say, well, it's even more than what it is, because it's all hypothetical. The building's done. We need to finish it. End of story.
Your Honor. And I agree, we need to put the $7,500 for the fence on next year's budget and make sure it gets in there to do that with. I just think we all need to be clear on where the money's at and where it's coming from and where it's going. When we talk about sale of property at the airport, if the airport doesn't generate any positive dollars, so the $179,000 went into this hole, so then we can't say we can pull it out and pay for the overruns on the DCI project. Basically, it just lowered our subsidy to the airport. So as long as we know where the dollars are at or aren't at, we can kind of move ahead and finish the project.
Given that admonition, the chair would entertain a motion regarding the DCI project.
I would move to approve the expenditure for the fence. Do you want a dollar amount, Madam City Clerk?
Absolutely.
I would move to approve a security fence for the DCI project in the amount of $7,500.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay, capital plan discussion. City Administrator's report.
Yes, Your Honor. Are you excited to dive into this?
Is it too late, or do you want to try for another time?
I mean, it's getting late, but I guess, is there any questions as you've reviewed the capital plan that you'd want to specifically go over? I mean, is there, we've updated this is the updated one, and if you'll leave your books with us, we will update your capital plan, we'll update the budget summaries.
I think they've already been done.
Oh, they've already been updated?
Yes.
Too efficient.
When did that
You guys are
happen?
incredible.
Where have you been, Stephen?
I guess I've been deep thought. So anyways, those are all included in your packets, in your new budget books there. As you can see, everything came in line with the third-party request and the supplemental funding. That all totals the 496 at the bottom. Just a couple things to point out that were changed. The DCI loan paydown, initially we had put $100,000 in for that. And after the discussion with the council, since that's money that just goes from the general fund and the airport fund, and we don't recoup any of that, what we decided to do is put that on a 5-year amortization schedule and pay that off in 5 years. So we have a lease with DCI for 5 years. If that, we'll have it free and clear at the end of that 5 years. And so we thought that would be a good compromise in that.
Your Honor, I don't understand that. So instead of taking a lump sum of $100,000 and putting it on there, you're going to take $20,000 a year and put it, I see, I don't understand what you're doing.
No, if you do an amortization schedule for 5 years of the $375,000, $56,000 will pay it off in 5 years.
So you're going to put 50s.
The what? 87,000. Oh, 87,000. So this is an additional on top of.
It's less than 100,000.
Right.
And more than.
In other words, it's somewhere in the middle of what we had discussed. We didn't really want to do 100,000 because it was going to hurt the general fund, but the other concern was that the lease is only 5 years long. So this is saying we're going to do the least we can and still not have a loan at the end of the 5-year lease.
Okay, I understand that.
Although the other question that I have is if it's just going to click away and we're never going to use that back into the general fund, why are we rushing to pay that note off? Why don't we let it pay itself out?
Well, to me, I think either way, it's reducing your subsidy. So, I mean, a debt is a debt, so you're paying interest on a loan.
There's other debt, correct, that we
just because the money can't flow back from the airport fund into the general fund doesn't mean that less money can leave the general fund to go to the airport fund. So by eliminating debt in the airport fund, we are in effect keeping money in the general fund.
Correct.
It's just for accounting purposes, it doesn't flow backwards, but it's still staying.
It's not being expended.
Yeah, it's not going out.
It's not going out. But my question is that we have $100,000 that we could probably use in the general fund instead of funding the airport and let the airport click out. That's where we're riding. This is the boat we're riding. The airport we know where the hole is. It's the airport. It's Bill's fault.
Can we phrase that some other way?
There is no need trying to hide it. And so
Essential public services that cost us money.
And I think the airport is needed. And yet we don't need to take all of our funds and shoot it down the same rabbit hole, is all I'm saying. It's going to pay out. I'm not a believer that and I've been told, and hopefully DCI is with us for a long, long time. I sure hope they are. And good, and I'd love to do that too. You don't know how much I'd like to extend your lease. You are one lease I would like to extend. But I think with that said, maybe there's more creative places to put that $100,000 than to put $87,000 on it to reduce it out and pay out in 5 years. That's not a bad idea. If the lease goes away in 5 years, we don't have a hole, any bigger hole in our boat. This $400,000 hole in our boat from the airport is substantial. And so, but with that said, and I think this is just the mindset again. we got to get everybody on board, and I think most people do. Everybody at this table knows that the airport is worth every dime of the 300, 400, whatever you want to argue we're spending on it. It's very well worth that and brings a lot of economic growth to the community. And so those are the positives we got to be selling. And I think it does. And so my only thought was, instead of putting that basically $100,000 towards that, maybe we could put it to some other use outside of the airport fund. Thank you, Your Honor.
Your Honor?
Yes.
Is there any debt inside the general fund itself?
No.
None. So really the only debt we could pay off through general fund money is the DCI.
Your Honor, if I could clarify something that Councilman Guard said. Yes, I know that we trade principal for interest. We can either pay more in principal or we can pay more in interest. Because one way or the other, you're going to have a balancing act at the end of 5 years. The reason I spoke to Mr. Weaver about a 5-year amortization is because it does coincide with that 5-year lease, because none of us do have a crystal ball, and we know that building is done and paid for in 5 years. It also saves the city $168,000 in interest.
That's what we needed to hear.
And it was also the council's directive that let's pay the highest loan off the quickest we can. That's why we targeted this loan.
That's what we needed to hear. I
So
think that's correct.
that pays off the overage on the building if we pay this off in 5 years. By not having to pay interest.
Don't let Bill go there.
We're not going to tell him.
Yes. Does it say Waterworks on his shirt? Want me to look? Wonder what department he's coming from.
Got the money tree growing.
Keep him, baby.
If they got questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Are there any more questions, or do you want us to try to go through?
Your Honor, I had just two quick questions. The reserves that are listed in all the different enterprise funds and the general fund reserves, all those we have on hand entering the new fiscal year. And once we expend those, that's the first question. Then the second question is, once we expend those reserves at the end of the fiscal year, we're still set at our 18.5%.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay.
Yeah, we verified that.
Yeah. Your Honor, I've been doing public budgeting for 35 years. Okay? And so what happens is you have this cash reserve, you have this reserve fund, and it's a lockbox kind of thing. Except that during the year, your inflows of cash may not match your outflows of cash. And so you use that money to cash flow the operation all year long. Then when you get to June 30th, you take a look at that. And by law, we've said this is how much money we're going to have in the reserves. So we take all of the cash, it's the money that's in the reserve account, it's in everything that's left over in every category that we haven't spent. It's all the money that we've got in the bank, okay? And we take that, bring it over onto July 1, and then the first thing we do is we subtract out all the cash reserve from that. Okay? Now that puts the cash reserve whole, and then we have the rest of that money to spend. So then we go down our list of priorities to spend that money. And so wherever that extra overrun wound up, okay, it turns out to be the item with the lowest priority in the next fiscal year doesn't get done. Okay? So we've restored that. So we made that fund whole. Okay? Unless by action of the council we say, well, we decided we don't quite have enough cash to do all the stuff we'd like to do, and so we've decided we're going to reduce our cash reserve from 18.5% to 15%, and then that's going to give us some extra cash that we can put into the general fund to spend, or in the water fund or whatever fund. And so we could use that cash money to balance that. It's just that through experience, we have decided that if we keep that fund at around 18%, that makes sure that we have enough money to cash flow our operations throughout the season. Okay, but then every year we come back around and we start over on day one We've replenished the cash reserve, and then the budgeting process is how we are going to spend the rest of the money that we have. And then we're estimating what our revenues are. We're also estimating what our expenses are. And so sometimes we bid something, okay, we bid a project, and it actually comes in way under what we estimated it would cost. Okay? And so, you know, instead of running around and saying, oh, gee, we made money here, we're going to trade that. Well, maybe that's what we do on this. We have a special meeting on the 30th of June or the 29th of June, or, okay, so we have this special meeting, and we come into that special meeting, and that's where we fix all the line items. We say we overspent this one, but we underspent this one, so we're going to transfer fund from this line item to that line item, from this section to that section, so that none of those line items are overspent, because what the Municipal Fiscal Procedures Act requires is that we have appropriated those funds legally. We advertised it, we had a hearing, we did all that, we appropriated those funds. So you can't overspend what you advertised in any of those categories. But we can come in and say, well, we want to make those adjustments. If, on the other hand, we come in here and say we're going to spend $500,000 more than what we appropriated, okay, then that's going to take a hearing, a public hearing. Just like the one that we set the budget, we'll have to have another public hearing and change the budget at the end of the year and basically spend cash reserve money to cover those overages. We'll have to agree to do that, and how we'll do that.
Your Honor.
And then we've got less cash. Then we've got less cash to carry over.
You're suggesting that that's what we will do? We will put back the $100,000 back into savings?
That's exactly right.
With the 18% that
that's exactly right. That 18% is restored. That cash reserve is whole on July 1.
Courtney, is that weed and pest financing, or is that what we're doing?
I absolutely love the way Councilman Baker talks about finances. Yes. Exciting, isn't it? I agree.
Yeah. Okay. I could have sworn that's what I said.
It is exactly what.
Something about starting and finishing, I got that.
It's just that we didn't get deep enough into the process. Okay? We just didn't get quite deep enough into the process. So what we're doing is, you know, at the end of the year, it essentially all the cash turns out to just go into one great big pile in the corner. And then we say, okay, now we've established that we're going to have an 18.5% cash reserve. So we go over to that pile of cash and we get all the money we need to create the reserve. Then what's left over there, we fight over how we're going to spend it.
Okay. Is there any concerns that you have, Courtney, in the capital improvement plan from a fiscal standpoint?
What? Were you talking to me?
No, I was talking to Courtney.
Oh, sorry.
Bill is glaring at me, so absolutely no concern.
Good answer.
We can make Bill leave the room, can't we?
Yeah. I've been asking to leave a long time ago.
No, Your Honor, I think this is a very sound capital plan.
Okay.
Very sound.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, if I could just comment. We are at a razor's edge in the waterfront. I know that Courtney loses sleep over this. I know Stephen had a realization in the middle of the night, and I came down and he had this terror-stricken look in his face, because the reality is the Riverton Water Supply Project that we are aggressively pursuing is a tremendous investment of our reserves, our resources, in a 20-year growth plan of our water system. And so we actually started going, okay, well then cut that out, and then cut that out, and then cut that out, because it was getting down to the point where the 18.5% reserves were in jeopardy. And so, not that I want you all to lose sleep either, but if there's one thing, one fund in particular, of course the airport fund is an expense, just like any other public service that we provide, but if there's one fund that I think we all need to be very, very careful about, it's the water fund. Because we have taken a very aggressive posture in expanding our water system to serve our population growth area for the next 20 years, and you don't do that without spending money. And so that's the one thing that I would comment about the capital plan, is that You know, it's taken a lot of time, money, and investment to get this far on that project. We have somewhat likened to playing Texas Hold'em, put it all in, and we've made our bet.
Your Honor.
Yes.
So if that fund is in jeopardy, then would you come back to us for a change in the rates, or how would that work?
Mr. Mayor, Councilman Fabian, we actually asked for a little bit more in rates this year in the water fund. Because of that, we will not come back again, but we are watching very carefully, and with Courtney's steady hand and careful guidance, we are watching very carefully about what we do in the water fund. What I think that you will probably see on the horizon shortly is, as we move forward with implementing more of that Riverton Water Supply Project and other parties want to hook onto it, that it either ought to be bringing something to the table or helping with the financing of it, because I just don't think we can afford a lot more. And in particular, that precious Zone 4 transmission line that runs out west and loops down around onto Riverview Road. I anticipate you will be approached in the near future about an agreement to provide water for a subdivision that's exterior to the city limits of the city. Quite frankly, we don't have the money. So if they've got the money to pay for the line, we can talk. But otherwise, we're going to have to wait a while before we can afford to build that. And we've just put it on the shelf. We can't go forward with that and spend another $500,000, even if 60% of it's grant funded, 56% of it's grant funded, because we don't have the match anymore. And so unless somebody else wants to bring that match forward to us, that project's going to just have to hold for a while.
Your Honor.
What we have to do when you balance the budget, you look at your funds, you don't overexpend, you don't raid the reserves, particularly that 18.5% reserve. I quickly explaining to my supervisors, we only have a few beans left right now this time of the year, so we need to hold on to our beans really carefully, because at the end of this month we have to get a bunch of red Solo cups, and we got to put a bean under every cup. And if we don't have enough beans to go around, then we have to ask Courtney for her supply of beans. If we do that, we don't have any beans to plant next year.
One bean here in the water fund that, you know, this is a very, very small item, but that fleet capital for one pickup of $30,000, about 4 years ago, I paid $18,000 for a truck, and it's been doing a wonderful job. And, you know, I just think that on that particular item, we're getting a little more palatial than what we need to be, especially if you having that kind of, but like I say, it's a very small item.
Mr. Mayor,
$30,000 isn't going to make any difference one way or the other.
Of course, we have to follow the state statute through procurement, so we can't use the same negotiating skills that I've learned from you today. You're pretty damn vicious. I've been trying to buy a telescope from him all day, and I'm getting nowhere. But we just put that number in as a placeholder. We'll try to get the best deal possible with a pickup that'll work the best for us. Basically, for the water treatment plant, it doesn't have to be a 3/4 ton four-wheel drive dually. It needs to be a half-ton pickup that's serviceable for the water treatment plant employees to do the well field checks and to do their work. And so we're not going to go out and buy a Cadillac pickup, I can assure you.
Yeah, that just seemed kind of excessive to me, but anyway. Okay, any other questions anyone has?
I think, Mayor, one of Bill's concerns is when we're approached politically to extend the water line, we need to be careful that we make wise moves politically and don't get our heart on our sleeve and go out and annex a bunch of people without any requirements on their side of that, because it is costly to maintain that water. And not that it's a club, it does have value.
Mayor and Councilman Garda, I mean, the interesting thing, just probably only interesting to me, is as part of the due diligence to get the grant for the water supply project, you know, they made us project what our operating expenditure costs would be, operating costs, once the project was done. And it was like, oh, okay, when we get all done, it's going to cost us $75,000 a year more to operate the water system with the new tank and the new pump stations and all of the appurtenances we're building. But if our population projections are right, and we build out that area and we fill that with residents, it will generate about $750,000 worth of revenue every year at the end of the day. So we're investing in the future. And I hope, that Riverton grows, and Councilman Gard and I in particular have had a lot of conversations about, I'm very bullish on the economy around here right now. I look forward to us having a lot of activity in town and seeing a lot more people moving to Riverton in the next 5 years, and even in the next year. And so I'm glad that we've made these steps so that we can provide water to everybody when they get here.
Okay. Anything else? Okay, council committee reports and council members roundtable. Councilman Smith, would you lead off?
Nothing further tonight, Your Honor.
Me neither.
Maybe on. Okay, Councilman Gard.
Your Honor, I have one meeting this Thursday, so I have nothing to report. Thank you.
Rec board met yesterday, paid some bills. That was about it.
Your Honor, on 5/17, the airport board met. Chuck Howell from Great Lakes addressed the board, pledged to do a better job in providing services. One of those things is that we have 3 direct flights from Denver to Riverton without any deviation, so that will help. We just have to think Riverton first. We need to do it to keep our airport, and we have to think about the millions that the airport does bring to the economy. They kept using a phrase, the most important highway in town is the runway, so I thought that was kind of cute, but a very genuine man. I feel that he is really trying to do a lot to help our community work as a partner. So the other thing I would like to mention, a campaign going on. We got an email here a couple of weeks ago. It's regarding a large national paint company. We have been selected as one of the 100 cities across North America to be in the running to get 3 city blocks painted. If we vote every day online, we're the only city in the state. It's easy to do. If anybody has any questions, County 10 has done an article on that if you want to look back on that. It's beneficial to the city. It's free. It's worth doing. It's been going around door to door handing out some forms, so please try to vote every day. It's paintwhatmatters.com, and then just follow the prompts for Riverton, Wyoming. You tap on the state of Wyoming, Riverton pops up, you cast your vote every day. So pretty easy process. So appreciate everybody doing that. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Baker.
Well, Your Honor, I attended the rec board with Eric, and I think maybe that's the last meeting that I've been able to attend. I missed the last alcohol crisis board meeting due to a conflict, but I understand that process of transition to Volunteers of America is going smoothly, and I think that'll be a real positive thing for us. And just kind of waiting to see what the actual organization looks like when we put together the local oversight committees and that type of thing.
Thank you. Just as a follow-up on that comment regarding the Volunteers of America, my wife Helen, who has been on the Crisis Center board for some time, was asked by Volunteers of America if she would continue on their board here, and she has accepted that position, so we'll keep our fingers involved in that deal. But City Administrator's report.
Yes, Your Honor, just a reminder, next week we're going to start at 6, and it's going to basically be a Q&A for the budget. So instead of the capital like we talked about, it to be anything related to the budget. So we'll start at 6, and it'll just kind of be an open, kind of like we had here. So if there's any questions that you have, you can bring them up during that time, and we'll get those answered. Also, we got WHAM coming up next week. It's going to start, the fun. I'd really like to publicly thank Kristen and Courtney. They've done a bang-up job it's been a lot of stress. It's not an easy thing at all. I mean, in some ways, I think we should be lobbying WHAM to do it themselves instead of us doing it, because there's a lot that falls on the city for having this happen, and that's why we've canceled our work session on Tuesday night, because most of us are going to be out decorating in the evening time. So next week's going to be pretty busy. It'll be great for the businesses because there's going to be somewhere between 200 and 400 people in town shopping at the businesses and going to restaurants, and yeah. Well, the last time there was only 200 and we only have 230, I think, registered right now. 275. I was up 275. And then I did do the paint thing. I voted today. It's very easy. I thought I was going to have to register for something, so you just get on that website and you just hit vote and you're done. So it's, and I think does it have to be in the downtown? Is it for a downtown city block? It's not a...
It's to revitalize downtown.
Okay.
And their experts come in and I guess decide which buildings could be updated. And so any business that's improved will help everybody. So.
Yeah, so encourage people to vote.
Yeah.
That's all I've got.
And if you have two different devices, if you have a smartphone and a computer, you can vote twice. Figure it out.
Oh, dear. You're crowding the... Okay.
Your Honor, clarification from Mr. Weaver, next Tuesday we're not meeting, right?
That's right.
And then the following we'll meet at 6.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay. So that's the third Tuesday.
Yeah, did I say next week?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
I just wanted to make sure. Thank you.
I too would like to thank Courtney and Kristen and the staff for all the work they've been doing on WHAM. Every time I turn around, we're doing something in there for WHAM, and so it's pretty labor intensive. I was disappointed this evening regarding the Walmart vote. You guys left me hanging in the middle there, so I would have preferred that we had it go one way or the other, but I guess that's what I get paid the big bucks for.
You cut your own throat, Mayor.
Probably did. Yep. Regarding this evening, I would like to bring up the young lady that was hurt down at the fairgrounds. Remember her in your prayers. I haven't heard the news on her, but that's a terrible tragedy for a young 16-year-old girl. One other thing that I've been working on for a while, I found another mayor, Fred Stratton, June 5th, 1950 to December 7th, 1953. So I'm going to go ahead and put him in his place of honor here.
Hold that pose. Great.
I think old Fred was a mover and shaker. There's about 3 or 4 different Stratton subdivisions.
Yeah, maybe by the time I leave, we'll have most of them, but they're hard to find. And if anyone needs a list and will help in the effort, well, I'd certainly appreciate it. I've got one more coming that I think a gentleman by the name of Jack Channing. And so, at any rate, that's all I have this evening. Chair would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Second.